Most leaders and most coaches in sport assume won't. They assume rebellion, selfishness, bad attitude, poor character, whatever. And all the poor behavior comes from a lack of confidence, a defense mechanism. So it looks like won't. Every coach in every culture needs simplicity. And the culprit is rarely a bad thing, right? So you don't have to break down bad things. The culprit, the villain, is always too many things. And it's usually too many good things.
What would you steal from a family and install it in a team? So kind of reverse a little bit.
That's good.
My first question I had actually is like, how many gyms do you think you've been inside of at this point of your life?
You know, I've never really tracked that. What I did track for many years was how many players and coaches that I've worked with through camps, clinics, workshops, and whatnot. And we got over 125,000. So I don't know how many gyms that is, but 100, that's pretty amazing. Yeah. 125,000 different players and coaches I've gotten a chance to speak to or take through a camp experience or run a clinic for.
That's incredible. So I got to ask, what has been the worst culture of all of those places that you've ever experienced, and what was that like?
Okay, one of the worst was actually in the Philippines. So I got to be a part of an organization called Origins Basketball, which is a faith-based ministry getting back to the origins of the game. So the game of basketball was actually created by James Naismith, a Canadian. Shout out to my Canadian brother, Jordan here. I know. And he was actually a minister, and he had trouble getting young people to go sit in a pew and go to church. So he created a game that would be fun to play for young people so that he could share the gospel with them. So basketball was created for that. So Origins outreach is getting back to the origins of the game. So me and a group of college players, pro players, went out to the Philippines, and they love basketball in the Philippines, but they really don't have a sport culture. So we went into this gym just outside of Manila. It took us 2 hours to drive like 2 miles because of what, like the roads are just congested.
I've been there. I've been to
Okay. So you know about it. It's crazy, right? So it's like, finally get there, no AC in the gym, just so sticky, hot and wet. And these young men are so excited to be there to get American style coaching. Unfortunately, the culture of sport is no one ever listens to the coach. People don't stop when you start coaching them. They don't acknowledge you. We had a language barrier. Showing up on time is not a thing. So there were like constantly people in and out. When someone had to leave, they just left. So like in the middle of a game or a drill. So it was like the most chaotic, messy culture. And so like we stopped teaching them basketball and started teaching them their approach. Like what does a professionalism or a serious approach actually look like, which they had never been taught before because that just doesn't exist in their sport culture, right? So that was probably and it wasn't the worst culture because of selfishness or toxicity or negativity. They just never been taught. You know, I think I was actually doing our coaching podcast earlier today. Like whenever you're teaching, coaching, leading someone, their answer is usually can't or won't. They either won't do it or they can't do it. And you know, throughout sport, and I think I've seen this in life as well, if they are unable to execute the behavior you're asking them to, it's usually because they can't, not because they won't. And most leaders and most coaches in sport assume won't. They assume rebellion, selfishness, bad attitude, poor character, whatever. Oh, they just won't do what I'm saying. But most of the time, it's just can't. And all the poor behavior comes from a lack of confidence, a defense mechanism. So it looks like won't.
It's so interesting. We take for granted just the most basic things needs instructions sometimes.
Yes.
You know, like what is body language like? Don't slump your shoulders down and slump your head down and shuffle off the court. It seems so basic, but the most basic things sometimes need instructions.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. And we just assume, oh, that kid has a bad attitude. And I would say for any coach, leader, parent, assume they've never been taught. It will change your heart state from one of like furious to curious. Like, right. And that
is a good one that is a great heist already. Furious to curious. That is great. That was so good.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll leave it there. So yeah, that's probably been the worst, but it was also one of the most fulfilling as well because they were able to change so much. Like when the environment, culture, whatever is terrible, it has the most room for growth. Just like, you know, if you're coaching little kids, they're the worst basketball players, but you can make them better so fast.
Yeah.
Whereas like it's hard to go and make Damian Lillard much better in and out.
It's true.
I changed Damian Lillard in an hour. No, you did not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like reminds me of I was just talking to somebody about like kids' bad attitudes. It was on the golf course and they're talking about, oh, this attitude's so bad. I'm like, have you ever described to them what that looks like, a good attitude, just in detail? What are the actual physical traits that what does it look like? What does it sound like? I think we do take for granted the most basic body, I don't know, reactions or, assumptions. It's, and those things all, like you said, is like, that's a fundamental layer of culture, I guess, basic etiquettes or basic understanding of character skills. I don't know. Right.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you too, just because that kind of reminded me of something. Like, you've been in so many gyms. I mean, 125,000 people, one of your mantras, if you want to call it, simplicity wins, which I think is amazing. Have you ever had to walk into a situation, or let's call it a culture, and, what kind of complicated thing did you have to break down or burn down to kind of get to that level where, you are focusing on just the simplicity?
Yeah. So I would say I work with coaches now, and I consult for them. I do training with them, give them feedback and mentorship. Every coach in every culture needs simplicity. And the culprit is rarely a bad thing, right? So you don't have to break down bad things. The culprit, the villain, is always too many things. And it's usually too many good things. So
Naval, like trying to incorporate too many good things, like trying to bring too many good things together.
Yeah, or just like divided focus. So Naval Ravikant, modern day philosopher, if you don't follow him, if you haven't read his almanac, get it. It's so good. He says that concentration leads to the building of wealth, whereas dispersion or many different things, or we go sub complexity, right, is the protection of wealth. Like if you are trying to build a culture, we'll substitute culture for wealth here. If you're trying to build something where you don't have anything, you have to concentrate all your efforts into a narrow focus. If you're just trying to maintain what's already really good, you have the wealth, you have the culture, that's when you can focus on many things. And most people are in a building stage for their culture. And so simplicity is just going to win. Like there's going to be a lot of good things like communication, empathy, patience, work ethic. These are all good things. And if you try to establish all these good things, you'll end up with none of them. And that's the biggest enemy to growth that I've seen in working with these programs.
Is it like a staged approach then in that regard? Like, is it a bolt-on, like get this right and then add to it? Or is there
Yeah, I would say yes. So the term that I use is scaffolding. But here's the beautiful thing. When you get good at one thing, other things will automatically be better. And again, I'm going to use basketball analogies because that's what I've had the most experience teaching. So we want to do something very simple. We want to make layups. We want to make more layups. That's pretty simple. That's a pretty good idea. You want to make some shots. Well, if we focus on training with higher energy, like excitement, effort, spirit, right? If we focus on training with more energy, we will make more layups without actually working on layups, because performance follows energy. And so then when we do get around to focusing in on layups, when that becomes important, we will be further along without having even focused on it. But if we focus on making layups, what gets sacrificed is energy, because guess what happens when you miss a layup? You get sad and you lose energy, right? So the culprit would be like, I want to focus on too many things. I stop focusing on energy and start focusing on making layups, and I get neither.
What is then that for the family? Like, what is the one simple thing, do you think, that is the layup?
Yeah, I actually don't think there is one. I just think it's important that it's only one. Yeah, and I think for each person, it's different. So let's relate this to coaching again. There's lots of great coaches. Let's take a classic great coach, John Wooden, great coach. Let's take a current great coach in Joe Mazzulla with the Boston Celtics. Both great coaches, peers, fans, players, love them. They coach incredibly differently and have different priorities. I've gotten to be in a Joe Mazzulla practice. I've read every book that John Wooden has ever written. Okay. Whereas John Wooden would focus on like processes of how do you put on your shoes and socks? How do you tie your shoes? Exactly. How do we stand around the free throw line? He's going to focus on like these things, right? Joe Mazzulla is actually against those things. He doesn't use drills. He focuses on a game approach. He really is he's like zooms out to the macro. He's like, I don't care how you do it. Just this is the objective that we're going to measure. Completely different approaches, both incredibly successful.
Would you call those two different cultures as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's like a really, that's something that I've really believed in a lot, is like, with family culture specifically, there isn't one way of winning, whatever you want to define as success in family. But, every unique family has their own unique success story and can be successful forming culture in different ways. I think really what it feels like is the idea of intentionality to 1, 2, or 3 things that shape identity. Because I think that's maybe where, I don't know if you're wrong, if it's right or wrong, when you walk in a gym, we're thinking about all these things, we're doing all these different ideas, but we're not really focusing in on the one thing, which is like, who are we and what can we do the best?
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense.
No, absolutely. Okay, let me riff on that real quick with a story and a quote that I think will really help. So Epictetus, here's the quote. We'll go quote and story. Epictetus says, "Decide first who you'll become, and then you'll know exactly what to do."
Oh, I love that.
It's so good, right? Whereas too often, we're like, oh, what do I have to do to have a great culture? No.
Yeah.
Focus first on what you want your culture to become. And once you get clarity on that, you'll know exactly what to do. And you knowing what you would do is different than me knowing what I will do. But we can both know what we're trying to become. And that's the intentionality that you're talking about. Like, begin with intention.
Yes.
Can I tell the story real quick? Because it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the opposite of that. And unfortunately, I would say this is what most coaches and most families do instead of being intentional, instead of deciding who they're trying to become. Okay. My daughter, Charlie, who she's a baller.
She's a baller.
She had a little game. Her little girls team was playing a little boys team, and the little boys were losing to the little girls. That made the little boys very angry, but it didn't make the little boys as angry as it made the little boys coach. The little boys coach became incredibly angry because his boys were losing to little girls, and it was obviously a reflection on his value as a human being. So, and I'm watching this game from the stands. I'm not coaching this one. No, I take it back. I wasn't watching this game from the stands. I wasn't even there. Steph, my wife, was watching from the stands, took a video and told me about it.
Oh, wow.
Coach was so frustrated, gets these little 5th grade boys off the court and starts physically punching them in the chest, pushing them around to get them to change their behavior and win the game. Okay. So that's a behavior. That's a behavior that we would say, oh, that's a sign of a bad culture. I think we would all agree with that. That's bad culture. Well, I bet you if we talked to that coach at any time, and we said, hey, do you want to have a culture of pushing around your little players? I guarantee you he would say no.
Yeah.
It's just he hasn't created intentionally who he's trying to become as a coach or what he's trying to develop as a team. It's unintentional. And when you are unintentional about where you're going, then you just react in the moment, and it's always negative.
Yeah,
it's true for family. It's true for sport.
That just resonated with me. I was doing some research on corporate culture, and it was the CEO from Levi's, and she has this image she puts on the desk of her leaders, and it's a telescope and a microscope, and the telescope is like literally sitting and looking through the microscope, and she's like, we can't be successful as a leader if we're not constantly zooming out first before we get granular and dealing and being reactive. And I was like, wow, what an image. And to your point, that coach is reacting in the moment without zooming out and seeing.
He's microscoped out.
Yeah. He's just like, I'm feeling this thing in the moment. I'm going to react here. And that is one of the biggest, I think, hurdles as parents. I think it's one of the biggest hurdles as families and probably for most organizations is getting lost in that moment, in the minutia, zooming out and strategizing.
Absolutely.
So good.
How do we zoom out? Because our emotions want us to zoom in. How do we zoom out? Go ahead.
You already said, I'm just repeating what you said, is if you don't have a plan, like your identity, if you don't have a clear sense of who you're trying to become, then I think you just get lost because you're not reminded in the moment of how that person behaves or what that person is going to behave like. So I think it does come down to, I'm trying to think of simplicity wins too, because I'm thinking, everything as a parent, you can have a strategy around, like you can have a plan around, hey, this is a bad behavior, or this is a thing, instead of getting lost in the moment. Like, do I actually have a plan for this? Like, have we actually discussed how we want to talk to each other as a family? We're just yelling. Hey, stop yelling. But like actually visualizing and having a plan of how do we want to talk to each other?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you said the word plan. A synonym that I use a lot is system. You've probably heard this statement, right? You don't rise to the level of your aspirations. You fall to the level of your systems.
Wow.
If you don't have a system around it, it's not that important to you, and it won't actually happen. So for 2 years, this is the other thing I told you I can tell you about. For 2 years, I've had the desire to work out, but I haven't. I haven't worked out. I've done other things with my
You've
time.
done some workout things though.
Well, I mean, I've been active. I'm playing a lot of pickleball, but as far as like physically, like performance, strength and conditioning training in the gym, moving weight around, right? I haven't done it for 2 years. So yeah, but I've been active, but I want to work out. I just didn't have a system in place. So I said, you know what? If this is going to happen, I got to have a system in place. So what system did I put in place? I paid a personal trainer an amount of money. I committed in advance to build my workouts, meet me for accountability. And I found the gym that's the absolute closest to my house and picked the only time of day that would work for me. And I put it on my calendar for 2 months out. Now for the last 2 weeks, I've been working out. So what changed? Did my desire change? No, my desire didn't change. I just actually created a system that added a pain and pleasure cycle to it. That's all it is, right? There's pain if I don't show up. I'm paying for nothing, right? And there's pleasure mechanisms when I do show up, right? Like my body feels stronger, I feel healthier, all that stuff. So like if you don't have a system around it, people are like, man, really wish that, I had a better relationship with my wife. Oh man, I wish my kids had better attitudes. Oh man, I wish that we as a family ate healthier. Okay. That's just a hope. It's a hope till it's a system, So I think you have to build a system around it.
Do you think then, and I'm going to segue that right into what you would define as just culture in general, like how would you describe to coaches who everyone's heard the word, it's kind of a buzzy word, obviously, right? And it's somewhat abstract, I think. So then how would you just like approach that conversation with the coach? Like this is culture.
Your culture is how individuals interact with each other. That's what I would say. Yeah. How individuals, and so, what I teach, I think culture is the output. And I think that your systems are the input, right? And so you can see in the culture, you can see in the output what is and what you might want to change, right? Then you create a system and then gauge your culture.
Yeah.
You can't force culture. You can only change your systems, but you can recognize what you want your culture to become. You can have a dream and a vision, right? Decide first who you're trying to become. Then you know exactly what to do. What do? You create a system.
How do you tie in like systems, which feel somewhat like rigid or corporate? And how do you tie in that idea with like, let's say authenticity and identity, right? Because I think I always, I always think of, what's his name? Shaka? Remember Shaka Smart?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, he created this incredible identity with this school. And he did so many great things through that identity that was really true to who he was as a person, right? Like the style of play and all that kind of stuff, the way that he brought these systems in.
Yeah.
Like, where is that? I don't know. Is it a crossover or is it like, I don't know.
Well, I think it goes back to what we said beforehand. So when Shaka decides who he wants his team to become, it looks a certain way because of his authentic predispositions, desires, what energizes him, all that stuff, right? So the outcome will then inform exactly what he's supposed to do, which is a system. So like one system, right? And a system is just a word that resonates with me. Like you might call it behaviors, habits, relationships, whatever. Was every year he would personally be the first person to go through this like grueling defensive effort drill. And there's a bunch of videos on it. You saw it, like, right? Takes a charge, dives on the floor, right? So I would call that a system. Like he did it every year. And he did it to supermodel the identity or the culture that he wanted to develop. Like I would say that's a system. He chose to do that. It wasn't just like, I wonder what I'm going to do today. No, he planned it, right? Like he stretched out beforehand.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I mean, I think so. Everyone's identity, the culture is authentic, as well as their system is authentic, right? If you want to develop a stronger relationship and trust between your kids, you're going to do something that's authentic to you and your family. If I want to develop stronger trust and relationship between my kids, I'm going to do something that's authentic to me and our family. Yeah, both of those things are systems, right? But they're authentic.
Well, they're not systems until you act on them.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Like it's like we like this. Well, what do you regularly do to promote that? I guess, or what do you regularly systemize? Yeah, that's authentic to you. And here's an interesting thought. If you don't know who you are you going to struggle? Like if you don't really feel like you have a good sense of self, let's call it a coach, let's call it a parent. If you don't think that you yourself have like a strong sense of identity or sense of self, are you going to hit a wall when it comes to shaping your team's culture or your own personal culture?
I mean, I don't even think you'll hit a wall. I don't think you'll get started.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, like my daughter Cody right now, throughout the day, she comes up to me multiple times. She's like, "Oh, Dad, I don't know what to do today. What should I do? I'm bored. What can I do? What can I do? What can I do?" Right? And I could give her things to do like chores or a game or something. But instead I'm like, "Cody, who are you trying to become? Like, what are you trying to become?" And she's like, "I don't know. I need to figure that out." Right? She doesn't know what she's aspiring to be, so she doesn't know how to fill her time. Yeah. Whereas right now, Charlie comes up to me, "Dad, I'm bored. What should I do?" A ball handling workout, because she wants to be a professional basketball player. Okay. Right. It's really clear. So I think the same is the same for the leader as well. Like if you don't know where you're going, there's a verse in Proverbs that says, "Without vision, the people will perish." And I think like that's why I would say that the most important skill set or characteristic of someone that's going to lead a lot of people is vision. If you don't have vision, if you can't like dream bigger dreams in people and articulate that vision to people, it's going to be really hard to influence a large group of people to move from one place to the next, whether it be physical, emotional, whatever.
No, you're spot on. Would if you were to audit every family, do you think in America, let's call it, what percentage do you think of families could clearly say to you, this is maybe what our vision is, or this is what our purpose is, or their mission?
10% or less. What would you say?
I would go 2%.
2%? Yeah.
I would go 2%.
think it's also probably the circles that we run in a little more. I would say that the circles that I run in at least is higher than maybe just your average. Your average family.
I mean, my friends are smart too, Tyler. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, no, I'm saying like people in general, but I would say it's even less. I would say vision is less about intellect and more about intention.
Yes.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I was having dinner with a dad younger than me with 2 younger kids. So he and his family are much earlier on their journey. I think they're 30. He's 31 or 32.
Yeah.
And he's going to start coming to community group. Not a Christian guy. But he's just like, he's like, man, he's like, I just love being around your family and your kids. He's like, we have to get around them more. And he couldn't really even articulate why, you know what I mean? And so I said, but I was putting, I'm like, why do you want to come to this thing? It's a Bible study. You're not a Christian, you know, why do you want to come? You know? And he's like, I don't know. He's just like, I just feel like we want to go where you're going, you know? And so I think that like, that's it, right? It is interesting, right? So I think like, that's it. Like, do you have a willingness and a desire to move from where you are to a better place? I think that's the most important step for anyone that's trying to improve their family's culture.
I think that's what's such it's a really cool thing, and also a really difficult thing is when you know good culture and you feel it almost becomes, unless you're kind of like yourself, like where you can really pinpoint all the details of, you know, what makes it successful. You just feel it and you want to be a part of it and you want to be around it. You know, and you might not even be able to describe it. You're just like, I just want to be amongst it. You know, I feel better as a person around it. So, which is a great thing. I mean, I know you and I have both done that. That's how I made most of my decisions when early in my life was like, I didn't really know where I was going, but I knew who I wanted to be around, you know? So I just got around the people that I'm like, yeah, these people are kind of like what I want to become. And then you just kind of see how they do things and pick it up. You know, you call this the culture heist. That is a culture heist. It is. You know, it is. Yeah. It's just like how do you actually steal like an artist and adopt pieces of culture? Like it's better caught than taught. You know, I can't believe you just said that, because that was my next question. Okay. But this section is called the interrogation. So it's rapid fire.
Go.
Okay, we're trying this rapid fire. There's 5 questions. Rapid fire. Culture is caught or taught?
Caught.
One word every locker room overuses.
Culture.
I was gonna say, I just teed it up for you. All right. Best culture you have ever witnessed or partaken in?
You know, I'm actually gonna say the company I was with for a very long time, PGC Basketball. It's probably the best company-wide culture.
Yeah. What would you steal from a family and install it in a team? It's kind of reverse a little bit.
That's good. The amount of time you spend with them doing nothing.
Like that.
Yeah.
Perfect. That's it. That's good. You passed the first interrogation with flying colors. Flying colors.
If you were actually being interrogated like we see in the movies, and there was drugs and pain involved,
do
you think you would last like longer than the average person, just about average, or you would break early?
Is this for my country? Is it for my family? Like, what am I being interrogated over? Maybe that's the start of the.
Let's say corporate espionage.
Corporate. They'll get all the answers right away. They get all the answers.
Okay, let's go country. Let's go country. Somehow you find yourself with state secrets,
and they're the bad guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'd probably make it halfway. I think it's like a sliding scale for me. I'd make it pretty good. And then I think if it's like for my family or my faith, it's kind of like, let's just die here. Like, this is where I die. I think there's the country thing is, how significant is this to world peace? If it's a significant piece to world peace, like these guys are going to bomb everybody, then I'll probably hold on to that pretty good. So,
okay.
Nice. What about you?
Good to know. I think I'd be less than average overall.
Yeah.
I just believe in the will of God, and I feel like He's got this.
He's got it. You don't need me. It's like,
you don't need me. You don't need my info.
Don't figure this out. I'm not suffering for this. I ain't Jesus, and they ain't putting me on the cross. So
exactly. Yeah. let me watch this from up there.
Yeah, exactly. Here's my last question.
Yeah.
What is one thing they can do this week? Something that you think a team does well, or a culture of one of the organizations you've worked with? What's one thing, a small thing a parent can take away this week?
Super small. Write it down and put it on the wall. So if you go into any locker room, there's things on the wall. There's art. There's graphics. There's words, right? And that's not culture, but it does give you a visual every single day to remind you that something matters. So 100%. I always look around at what homes have on the wall. And if it's it's 5 o'clock somewhere,
it's true.
You care enough about that. Like you probably, drink regularly,
Yes.
And so it's put it on the wall.
Now, it's so amazing how you can just pick that out by just going into somebody's space. It's right away. It's immediate. It's already tone setting. Before you even said a word, not even a conversation yet.
Yeah.
We've kind of set some tones already. So
it's good.
No, that's really good. That's a great thing. It doesn't matter how ugly it is. Just write it down, stick it on a wall, put it on in front of you. So
love it.
That's really great. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining the Culture Heist. And
what's your like Seacrest out sort of a thing? With your sign off?
The sign off is, I don't know. Maybe you can help me with that.
Okay, I'll think about it. This is the Culture Heist, and I hope you stole something good.
Oh, that's great.
All right, maybe we can play around with it. It'll get better with time. Everything does.
All right, this is the Culture Heist, and I hope that you stole something good.
That's pretty good.
Tyler.